Shkach Ari for putting together this Tu B'Shvat party, and Chaim for his inspiration and his contributions. And I think there's actually a combination of the two Ratzonus over here that we're here today, here tonight. So the emphasis is what is Tu B'Shvat? Tu B'Shvat is a Yom Tov that celebrates Ratzon. Right? We know the famous Bnei Yisachar that he says this vart by Tu B'Av, and he says this, and he's two shells of vart to Tu B'Shvat. We know the two Rosh Hashanahs of the year. The year starts. We had Machlokes Belezer and Rabbi Shua. We had a simon to remember who held what. What was the simon we had, Pat? Which one holds up? Nisan Nivra Olam or B'Tishrei Nivra Olam? So we had a simon. What was our simon? Yeshua holds Nisan. Because Yeshua is a Nisan. Yeshua holds B'Nisan Nivra Olam, and Rabbi Eliezer holds B'Tishrei Nivra Olam. What is the Indian from B'Yis Olam? The Indian from B'Yis Olam is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a vow for Klal Yisrael, Bereishis, B'Shrei Yisrael Sh'Nikar Reishis. Okay, the world was created for Klal Yisrael, B'Shrei Yisrael Sh'Nikar Reishis. When was Bereishis? So Bereishis, when was the Maim of Bereishis? The Maim of Rishon Bereishis Baruch Kim Hashem Hasaretz. So you hold like Rabbi Eliezer, Tishrei Nivra Olam. So Tishrei Nivra Olam means that Adam Rishon is created on Aleph Tishrei in Rosh Hashanah, which would mean Chaf Hei Elul is Bereishis. Maim Bereishis, first day of creation, is Chaf Hei Elul, according to Rabbi Shua ben Nisan Nivra Olam. So Chaf Hei Adar is Maim Bereishis, and Aleph Nisan was the sixth day of Bereishis, which would be B'Yis Ha'adam. So Mela, Chaf Hei Elul and Chaf Hei Adar are the Yom of Bereishis. Each lefi Rabbi Shua, and obviously Elu Elu Divrei Elokim Chayim. Taisus says a shvach that they don't argue really. Kan b'machshava, kan b'maisa. There's only a machshava, and there's a track of machshava track, and then there's a lemaisa track. So we taka paskin b'nisan nivra olam, right? Harayat it's rishonu l'chatzi hashana, right? And we know, I think we're making the cheshbonis when we're learning the sugyas that when it comes to the Birchas Hacham, it comes around. It's the Birchas Hacham cheshbon of it comes based on a Nisan cheshbon, right? But we celebrate Tishrei Hayom Haras Olam, the Yom Adin of a B'Yis Olam, because that's the B'Yis Olam of Machshav. There's Dr. B'nai Yisachar, a pshat that when I saw this years ago, it blew me away, this pshat. And we've said it in the past, but it's we said it last Tu B'Shvat probably said Tu B'Av. It's a pshat that has to be in your bones, this pshat. And he says, the ganze Welt HaKadosh Baruch Hu created for Klal Yisrael, Bereishis, B'Shrei Yisrael Sh'Nikar Reishis, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is thinking about Klal Yisrael. Meaning Hashem makes a world, right? He's making a world that there should be ultimately a connection between himself, Kav Yachal, and Klal Yisrael, which would be in the mashal of this world, a zivug between Isha and Isha, right? The only reason, believe it or not, the only reason why there's a zivug between Isha and Isha in this world is because there's a zivug between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. And our avodah in the microcosm of this world is to live with this connection of Ish and Isha, because ultimately that is our training. That gives us our ability to understand what it means to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we live a mashal in the chitzonis of the world, but in the previous of the world we understand that everything is meant to be ultimately translated into a yichud kutcher b'chu shchintei or a yichud of Klal Yisrael with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he says, the Gemara tells us in Meseches Saita, that Beis Ben Aleph, no? Arbaim Yoim Kaim Tzir Savlad, Bas Kol Yaitzeis V'Omeres Bas Pliny LePliny. Right, 40 days before the creation of a child. Okay, before creation of a child, a child who's going to come into this world ultimately to have a zivug. There is some sort of his galus. What does it mean, Baskal Yitzis? Is it an announcement? What is the point of this announcement? Who's it being announced to? Right? The answer is that before a creation of some sort of creature that is going to come, is being created for a tachas of a zivug. So, in the laws of physics, there is some sort of his naitzis, there's some sort of his galus of the Ratzon for this zivug before the yitzira of something that's going to have a zivug. Before a nivra is created that is meant to be connected to something else that is not it itself yet, but is be'etzem embedded in its metzias. So there's some sort of his naitzis, or some sort of his galus of its tachlis, of its zivug, even before it's actually ba liyitzir. Before it's actualized in bria, and it has to be actualized in conception that this nivra is going to have a tachlis of being connected to something else, and that's going to be mashal. That's the way it works in zivugim. If you apply this to the true zivug, the true nimshal of Yichud Kodesh Shchinte. So before HaKadosh Baruch Hu says Bereshis Bar Elikim, as Shemaim starts, he's being Bereshis Bar Elikim, he's being buried in Olam. The Gantzevelt is coming to Yitzira, or is coming to Bria. So the difference between Bria and Yitzira, right? The kind of Yitzira Savlad, and Bria, we talk about Bria Sa'ilam, right? Even though the words are interchanged, Bria and Yitzira, right? So the Chaf Hey Elul and Chaf Hey Adar would be called the Yom of the Yitzira Sa'ilam, the Yom of Bria Sa'ilam. Okay? Even though Bria Sa'ilam took 6 days, but the Lais of Bereshis, everything was never B'Yom Rishon. So the Ikar Bria Sa'ilam is Yom Rishon. Zak Meisas Chazai V by Zivug, there's a hachraza, there's a gilui of the zivug of a nivra. So too in the yitzira of the olam, there's a gilui of the yichud of the zivug of the ganze Welt, of the tachas of the ganze Welt. What's the tachas of the ganze Welt? Kodesh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. We're mainly going to have the same announcement. The same cruise is going to go out 40 days before Brias Olam. What's 40 days before Brias Olam? So for the Brias Olam of Tishrei, 40 days before Chav Hei Elul is Tu B'Av, and that is the tremendous iskalos, the tremendous simcha of Tu B'Av, that there is a cruise of zivugim, and that's a time where B'nai Yisrael Yitzis b'Mechayles, right? And there is zivugim b'Olam Hazeh, because b'emes that's when the cruise is Yitzis on the nimshal the zivug. If the cruise goes out on the nimshal the zivug, that's time for the mashal the zivug to be put into action. And Zakta b'nei Yisrael who adim when it comes to Tu B'Shvat. Tu B'Shvat is the cruise is Yitzis eliba de Rabbi Yeshua, right? With the Benisa Nivra Olam. So Tu B'Shvat corresponds to Chafei Adar, which is going to be Abarim Yom Kaim Yisur Savat. So I'm going to ask me a question. This year doesn't work out. This year was 70 days Kaim Yisur Savat because there's 2 others. I don't have an answer to that question, but Yeshua, Rabbi Yeshua over here will have to take responsibility for his shita.
All right, Bereshis wasn't a leap year.
Huh?
All right, Bereshis wasn't a leap year.
Bereshis wasn't a leap year. Right? But the idea is, but what's the pnimis? It's a beautiful word, but the pnimis of it is this idea. I don't want to sound romantic, but there's nothing more romantic than Abba and Yom Kaim Yisir Savla, Baskal Yesis, Vaymas Bas playing and plenty. There's nothing more like, wow, amazing! Like this is something that is so integral, to creation, and so part of the shleimus of ha'adam that it's literally it's announced Abba and Kaim Yisir Savla. And when you apply that to our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is really the tachlis habriya and the emes, it's the real nimshal, right? To picture what's going on now is in the Olam Yisrael. There's a tremendous sense of ava pouring forth, being nischadish. Right? There's a chiddush of a tremendous amount of ava, and it's an ava of which would be described as a Ratzon coming forth. Right? It's not in the Olam Hamaisa. Olam Hamaisa is 40 years later when there's a Yitzira. When the Olam HaRatzon there's nothing like Ratzon, right? Ratzon is something, right? In the Olam HaMaisa, you're always limited to the reality, to the physics, right? The laws of physics, right? It's this big, that, this size, this color, this, this, this perfect, this imperfection. Masha'enkin Ratzon has in it total perfection, right? Because Ratzon is the world of dreaming. The world of perfection is where you desire perfection. What does a person b'emes desire? A person b'emes desires perfection. When you can connect to the Olam in the Ratzon of the Ziva, right? When it comes to Maisa, okay, I'm saying we do our best, but there's nothing more simchatic than when you're envisioning it. It's like when a chas and kala get engaged, right? They haven't started anything yet, but they haven't started. But they're not lemaisa yet. But there's no greater simcha when they realize, it's a ziva. What's going to happen. We're engaged. When it comes to maisa, okay, you got to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? You have to be able to reach the goals that you aspire to, and the simcha that you knew is integral to the shidduch. That's built into the shidduch. But that's the tremendous simcha of Tu B'Av and Tu B'Shvat, and the emphasis is when a simcha is so behalten, right? It's so not anchored in anything physical. So Mela, the whole Indian of this just becomes a very darkistic point, and most of the Welt lives in the world of Olam HaMaisa, right? We do. We go out, we make money, we buy hamburgers, we eat them. You know what I'm saying? We go out, we buy sweet and sour chickens. Fine, we're very Lamaisa. You get the cold cash, you buy the hot food, and you eat it. That's life. And so you want to make a yontif, fine. Bring out the food. You want to make a Shabbos, bring out the challenge. You want to talk about Ratzon. You want to talk about something that and make something of Ratzon. That's already a chiddush, and it takes a little bit of his blindness to appreciate what does it mean Ratzon. But that's really what this yontif is about. It's about the rejuvenation of a Ratzon. A person should feel welling up inside of himself a sense of that b'shvili nivra olam, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu is literally loves every yid in Klal Yisrael like kibbed mamish, and on a collective state it's mamish like it's like a chassan and kala, the relationship with Klal Yisrael. This is what the yontif of Tu B'Shvat is, and it's clear. The Ramazim are beautiful, and the Bnei Yisrael Vart is mamish. It's a life altering Vart, but the fact of it is, it's obvious that's what's going on Tu B'Shvat, right? What's Tu B'Shvat in Mitzias? What's it pashut in B'derech HaPshat? What is Tu B'Shvat, right? So Tu B'Shvat is interesting. That it's machlokes Beisham Beisol. When is Tu B'Shvat? Is Tu B'Shvat? According to Beisham, Tu B'Shvat is on Rosh Chodesh Shvat, right? Well, oxymoron over there, Tu B'Shvat and Rosh Chodesh Shvat. But okay, there's no such thing as Tu B'Shvat according to Beisham. Okay, fine. Get it over. Just say what?
There's a roll off the tongue quite the same.
Huh? Not Elonis, Le'elon. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. We're not going to. It's not Elonis, it's Le'elon. Yeah, but But what is machlokes Beisham and Beisel when the Rosh Hashanah Le'elon is, right?
Beisham and Beisel is the Lamaisa and the potential and actionable.
Well, the way the Bnei Yissaschar says it is, he said Beisham means everyone agrees Shvat has to do with the Rosh Hashanah. Shvat is a month of rejuvenation, right? It's like we and that's why I always say this time of year is the happiest time of the year. Why is it the happiest time of the year? Because it's just like you descend into the darkness of winter, and then you sort of plateau at the bottom, 425 shkia, 425, 26, 27, and all of a sudden you start liftoff, and before you know it, you're moving a minute a day of more sunshine, and before you know, you're going to walk out of Second Seder and it's still going to be light outside. But the idea is the potential, right? The potential is, what is it? Because you're in Olam HaRatzon. Olam HaRatzon, you're just picturing, I'm going to take over the world this spring. It's going to be. I'm going to have so much kach. I'm going to have so much joy from all from this weather, and you're just picturing, right, the potential. So Beisham ends up 2 weeks ago, right, when literally just beginning to lift off, right, And the way the Bnei Yissaschar says, Beis Shammai is on Rosh Chodesh, because Rosh Chodesh is the most tzimtzum, because you just have the first isnaitzis of it's most mitzumtzum the Or Alavanim. Hashem Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel is always chesed, it's pashtus. When you have the greatest is pashtus, right? You have it on Tu B'Shvat, right? But the idea is just to say maybe just a little simpler is by Tu B'Shvat it's already taken traction, the movement in the right direction. And the Rosh Chodesh Shvat, it's already built in. You're moving ahead slowly. You you flatten the curve. You know what I'm saying? But you haven't. But you haven't really started blasting. And now already we're moving really in fast gear. You know, it's like every week another 10 minutes of sunlight. And and you get to shul and you start getting to shul on time from Erev Shabbos for a change.
No.
And what is that's his chachas, right? That's Ratzon. That's his niceties, right? Api Chazal. What is Tu B'Shvat? Tu B'Shvat is a sraf ha'ilon. The sraf is nichlas lilan. What is sraf? There's no Paris yet. It's not Paris ilan. We're far away from Paris, right? But the tree is just beginning to get its Ratzon and its ability. It's getting that jolt of energy now, right? And it's picturing already. Okay, soon we're going to take all this energy, and we're going to be able to actually produce Paris. And that his chachas is a sense of joy that's lamala from attaining of actual attaining it. Because again, in other meis tavas biyadek. But even at Tzad people know we're limited in what we could do. But in the Olam HaRatzon, there's no reason to have the greatest simcha every day of your life when you connect to the Olam HaRatzon. And that's what the lesson of Tu B'Shvat we're meant to take with us is just like on Tu B'Shvat, you have this simcha of Ratzon. You could have a simcha and Ratzon every day of your life. And Be'emes is a tremendous tviyah on Ratzon. And that's really the next stage of how we have to understand Ratzon. I've said over in the past, and I'm sure said over from his father, Abdullah Yeshua. He says Azay that we'll just start from the conventional way of people operating. People operate as they look at the track record, right? They look at their schedule. I got up at this time today. I got up this time yesterday. And the last 6 months, you make a graph. What's my wake up? What's my chakras like? What's my Seder Yom like? What are my nefilas like? And then after they chart the last 6 months, the last year, whatever, last 10 years, the last 20 years. Some people have to, like myself, have to track their failures the last 50 years, unfortunately. Yeah. And you look at your graph, and you look like, okay, got 80, 60, 80, 40, 20, 50, 70, 80. You know what I'm saying? And you look at your graph, what's my average? My average grade is, let's say, 70. Okay. Average grade is 70. Let's say my average grade is 70. So okay, so I'm an average yid. You know what? I'm going to strive. I see what the reality is. So I'm going to get all excited about and be a tzaddik. The reality is I'm a 70. So I'm really happy being a 70s person. So Mela, when it comes to for a person being this iron is avodas Hashem at any point, it's like, listen, you're a 70 student. What are you getting all excited about? It's for Friday Night Kiddush, and you're bawling your eyes like Meshuggah, you're a 70 student, right? Or you're sitting, doing whatever you're doing. You're learning a Gemara, or you're saying a Shema, and all of a sudden you think maybe I should start reaching a little higher, and you tend to tell yourselves that, well, listen, be realistic. You're a 70 student, right? Which is a very big ties. Because a person
stop being such a fanatic.
Huh?
Stop being such a fanatic.
Right. But a person tells stuff that you have to water down your Ratzon to where you grade yourself in the Olam HaMais is a huge error. Because in Olam HaRatzon, a person has to literally be willing to die Kiddush Hashem every moment. And even though he knows that if it comes to Maisa and I have to give it my life to Hashem, I don't know if I'll be able to do it. But in Olam HaRatzon, you could want to do it. And a person can say Shema Yisrael Shalom Ken Hashem Echad and really picture Mimakarba Abba Misbeis, and for a second he maybe actually means it, but he said, but I don't know for Lamaisa. I know Lamaisa is 70s. Do 70 students are they in such big nisaynis, right? But ultimately a person cannot water down his Ratzon. He should not be afraid to really let his Ratzon come out mamish to the highest level. The Gemara says by Rabbi Kiva. He said when they were being when they were scraping off his basel b'masreka shel barzel, so he was saying Shema. So as the Talmudim says, Rebbe Adkan. So Rabbi Kiva said, he says Kol Yomai, right? I used to say, right? And every day I would say Kriya Shema. I would say that I have to love Hashem even academic serious nefesh mamish. Right now that I came this opportunity to do it, I'm not going to be mekayim it. So I saw many years ago. I probably said in the past. The Adamsker, the Tfer Shlomo says azay. But Ma'is zel yadi ba'akaymena. It's a lot of kim shtaris. Meaning, my entire life I professed to say, and I actually felt that way in Ratzon. I professed it. I believed it. I said Adis on it. Right? I signed on it. I was chaysim that I'm willing to be Ma'aseh Nefesh. Right? And now we have to be Mekayim the shtar. Right? Now it's time to collect it. They have to be Mekayim the signature that it's not a false signature. I have an opportunity finally to put into practice what I signed on for, and I'm not going to finally be Mekayim the shtar. Meaning there's two stages. Right? He understood that I have to be able to put into practice a totally different avodah. Right? And it's not so pashut that one's without the other. But this is Rabbi Kiva's Madrega, that he was saying that I'm going to have the ability now to actually put it into practice, even though when I said it in my Ratzon, I wasn't sure. But now that I'm in that matzav, I'm going to have to do everything I can to actually be mekayim what I professed my entire life. But Kitzur, the Yisod of is the two Zachen. There's Ratzon and there's Lemaisa. And a person doesn't have to be sure that he's going to be able to be mekayim his Ratzon. But a person's Ratzon has to be 100% dedicated and devoted. And this is what the Gedal Shur said Azay. He said the Pshat Azay. B'tchila, we know in Bereishis Bar Elikim Eser Shemaim Esar Tzbir Sa'olam was B'Shem Elikim. Elikim is Midas Hadin. Rasha En Olam Eskayim, right? So he was Mitzvah to Midas Harachim Midas Hadin. B'Yom Bra Hashem Elikim Eretz Shemaim Hashem was Mitzvah Shem Hashem, which is Chesed, to Elikim, which is Din. Zakter, in fact, Zakter B'Kedai Yishor, what's the Pshat HaKadosh Baruch Hu? B'tchila, Olav B'machshavta, Livers Olam B'midas Hadin. He saw the world's not going to be Mekayim, so what was the Olam B'machshavta to do this? It's not going to work in the Olam Ma'isa. People cannot be perfect. If Midas Hadin is going to be the standard, then the moment the person Mesiach Das from learning, boom, a spiritual lightning comes and it's over, right? Before you know it, there's no one living on the world in Olam Ma'isa. So what's the Pshat that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made with Olam B'machshavta, Livers Olam B'midas Hadin? Zakta Gedal Yishor, he says this, that it was Olav Machshavta to create the world b'midas hadin is mechayev every person in Olam Haratzon to live up to midas hadin. A person's ratzon can't waver. A person can't ever say for a moment, I'm not so sure whether I want to be Ma'aseh Nefesh. I'm not so sure whether I want to be dedicated. A person has to constantly know, I'm sure 1,000% I want to be dedicated. And midas hadin is tevei, that you can't veer a second in your ratzon. Why should your ratzon veer to maybe and maybe no? In Olam Ma'isa, from Ratzon to Ma'isa, you're going to have a lot of pitfalls along the way. If you don't follow all the steps of the Mesilas Yesharim, what was the lashon of Harbe? What was the lashon by Mamlich David by the Gichon? Harbe Harpatekois from Mikan by the Gichon, right? By Mamlich, right? Going from one step to the next, there's many distractions when you go from Ratzon to Ma'isa. But in Olam Ratzon, a person has to recognize that I can't water down my Ratzon. My Ratzon has to be 1,000%. And even after in the field, that doesn't change my Ratzon. That's my Olam HaMa'isa. But my Olam HaRatzon can't be watered down by my vision of the Olam HaMa'isa. And that's really the with his chachas of Tu B'Shvat, to focus on the Ratzon, and the Ratzon has to be every day a Ratzon of his chachas. And yes, is his chachas going to come to Lemaisa? I don't know if it's going to come to Lemaisa. That doesn't mean that my hashkaf is going to change, and my recognizing that in my Ratzon there's a midas hadin that's teveh for perfection. Just furious with a remez Rabbi Shur said tonight by his Suda. He says that well, Stam, everyone has to down for a good esrog. You come here, we'll try to get you the best one possible. But he says Rosh Hashanah, that Tu B'Shvat is Rosh Hashanah li'Elon. What's the lashon of Elon? Elon is lashon Yach. He said, what Elon are we talking about? Talk about the esrog tree. That's the main Elon. We have to be thinking about that we're referring to, that the Pri Hadar, which is ultimately describes. We know what the esrog is. We know a little bit about the side the esrog in the Arba Minim. The esrog is the He'achroina, which is ultimately the Yichud Kutcher Bechut Shchita is expressed in the Priha esrog, and so that's what he says, that it says lashon of Elon is lashon Yach. It's referring to esrog. I asked Rabbi Shor tonight. People talk on Tu B'Shvat about Shivas Haminim, right? And Shivas Haminim is a great Zach. What is Shivas Haminim? Shivas Haminim clearly they correspond to the Shiva Midas Chesed Gvur Tfaz Netzach Chaydi Soid Malchus. And he said, interestingly enough, the reason why there's the Eretz Hifsik Inyan between Eretz is Shem and Dvash, right? It says twice Eretz. Eretz Chita Soya Gafantain. Remember Eretz Zeh Shem and Dvash. Eretz Hifsik Inyan, and that's why in the order it's Chita. The order is Chita, and then Tamar Sa'ira, and Chita, and then Zayis Sa'ira, and then Tamar. Tamar is right after Chita and Sa'ira, because the Kedima Lebracha is based on your proximity to Eretz. But plus the epis were mafsik, because we know in the Zion Tachdainis, he said it many times. The first 5 midas chesed with first netzach and hoy, these the midas hapoyales, and you say the malchus are the makables. So mele in the shivas haminim, they're divided between the two functions. There's 5, and there's the final 2. But so I asked him, I said, what's the pella that you're talking about? That the shivas haminim. You would expect esrog to be one of the shivas haminim, right? These are holy fruits, and the holiest fruit of all, the one fruit that we take the Pri Hadar that we take for a mitzvah, and this isn't from the Zion shivas haminim. So he said that esrog is the mila from the he's after I didn't get a chance to research it, but he said esrog is in bina. I said esrog is malchus, right? It's he'achroina. So you say it's Malchus Shababina. That's what he said. Okay, we could do a little research on it, but that was what I just in the Shivas Haminim versus Esrog, what you would expect that Esrog. I'm sure people talk about it. I have to do a little research on that. Maybe we'll figure out by tomorrow something about that. But he said a nice remez. He said He said that Elon and well-known Elon, Beis Hochzah mentions this, that Elon is watched in 91, which is Kutcher Ushchinte. So he said, I say, what stairs are connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Right? Again, we've said it many times. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei Alf Dalet is a yichud of Kutcher Ushchinte, right? There's HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Olam in Machshava, and then there's the way in Olam Hadibur is Shem Aleph Dalet. That describes the connection between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Olam HaTachton. Havai is Shemayim, Aleph Dalet is Oretz. Okay, and that's the whole of it. Hashem is making connection between Shemayim and Oretz, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Shemayim, Klal Yisrael ba'Oretz, and the ganze Olam has to scream Malchus Shakai. And that's what who comes to shter the Malchus Shemayim? Malchus Shemayim is shter by the Sitra Achra. Right, the Sitra Achra is the Samach Mem, and his zivug. Right, we have a zivug between kedusha, Kutcher B'Chus Shchinte, and you have a zivug in the Sitra Achra of Tumah. Right, you have the Samach Mem, right, which is Bigamatria 131. Right, Samach and a Mem, and then an Aleph and a Lam. We try not to say names of bad malachim and not even names of good malachim. And his nukva, right? Every zivuk has a zachan and a keva, right? So the nukva of the Sitra Achra is known as the shem with the lamed and the yud and then a lamed and a saf, and that is the name of the nukva of the Sitra Achra. You put those two together, you add it up, it equals 580. Okay, 580 is Bigamatris Seraf. Okay, the sraf that goes into the Elon powers a zibug. Then Sitra Achra is coming to take a sraf to ruin that sraf and affect that sraf, right? The sraf, not to empower the yichud of the Elon. Our avoid is to be metar the sraf and taka put the sraf. Make sure the sraf which we're describing is our Ratzon. Our Ratzon is not affected by the Sitra Achra, and it goes into the Elon to fuel this yichud kutcher b'chut shchita, this connection between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. When you put together sraf with Elon, it's begematria Tara 671. Tara is begematria the Shem Aleph Daled. Right, when you write it b'miluyah. Aleph Lamed Fei, Dal Lamed Taf, Nun Vav Nun, Yud Vav Dal, it's begematria 671, which ultimately, when you take Shem of Adna and you write it out fully in its milui, right, that personifies the greatest. I'm making this up, but I'm not really making it up, but you have to. I may not be medactic what I'm saying, but I'm going to say these words, and you can do your own research on it. But it describes the greatest yichud, meaning when Shem Aleph Daled is totally full with shefa, right? What does the yichud mean? Yichud means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is personified in Yud Kei Vav Kei, is mashpia the maximum shefa to Aleph Daled. When Aleph Daled is b'miluyah, totally full, that means it is full with shefa. So Mela, when we ensure that our Ratzon, our sarf is tar, and does not have in it the rat and the bad intentions of the Sitra Achra, then the sraf goes into the Elon, and we have a Tikkun Olam, Shem Aleph Daled comes to be Tara, which is Tara is Lashon Shar, which is Shar La Hashem Tzadikim Yavoy. This is how we come into to greet HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and this is Bemis. This is the Pesach for Tefillah of Hashem Svasai Tiftach. This is the kavan when you say Hashem Svasai Tiftach, that we go into this Tara through this Shar Shar La Hashem Tzadikim Yavoy in all of our Tefillas V'Shtach B'Zeicha, to have a tremendous Ratzon well up inside of us. This Ratzon should trickle down to our Lamaisa, and little by little in our Lamaisa we will find that we're not the same person today as we were yesterday, and we're not going to be the same person tomorrow as we are today. And believe it or not, you look forward, Bez Hashem, 10 years and 20 years from now, you're going to look at the mirror and you can wonder, who is that tzaddik looking back at me? And you're going to know, wow, something happened. It wasn't me, but thank you, Hashem, for all the opportunity in the Siyat Lishma. We shall have Siyat Lishma and a Rosh Hashanah come to Maisa. And Mizrach Mashiach Tzidkenu Meher B'Yameinu.
Amen.